I want to read to you a small portion of a book. And I'm not going to tell you who it is first because my experience says that sometimes people will use that word, I can't. So I'm going to promise I'll tell you later if you don't figure it out. Whatever man may do to us of injury or bodily harm is to be depreciated in the fear of God. Men ought to obey God rather than other men. For the love of God is sovereign, demanding that we be raised to His own level. He spares Himself or us no pains until this is fully accomplished. God is against all self-centeredness in men, since this prevents the accomplishment of His purpose, and His judgments against those who are self-centered seem very troubling. The king desires the love of his subjects, but this must be freely given, or else it is not love at all. Because the king is love, then he gives us the awful responsibility of freedom. That means we are free, if we so minded, to reject and repel him, to go our own way into perdition. This is because it's our choosing, not his. Freedom under God is a divine gift, but it brings terrible responsibility. Such responsibilities as were intolerable save for one fact. The fact is that those who desire to be obedient and to worship the Father in spirit and in truth are promised His Spirit. This gift of the Spirit was promised by Jesus just prior to His departure and was to be sent to the disciples after He had been received up into heaven. Man was not to be left alone to offer his own unworthy response to the wonderful love offered. God was to come by His Spirit and to dwell in the hearts of the faithful, enlightening the mind, guiding the worship, and fashioning their lives according to the divine will.
so greatly pardoned, I'll forgive my brother. The law of love I gladly will obey. I then shall live as one who's learned compassion. I've been so loved that I'll risk loving too. I know how fear builds walls instead of bridges. I'll dare to see another's point of view. And when relationships demand commitment, then I'll be there to care and follow through. Your kingdom come around and through and in me. Your power and glory, let them shine through me. Your hallowed name, oh, may I bear with honor, and may your living kingdom come in me. The bread of life, oh, may I share with honor, and may you feed a hungry world through me.
Thank you. Ministry of music. I don't know about the rest of you, but I hope I can bring ministry like that. Those really aren't the best words. I'm not doing much of anything other than standing here. I'm going to say it out loud, but it's for my benefit more than it is yours. My desire this day is to do what the Lord would have me do. not what I want to do. The Lord loves you. Not because we're lovable. It's because of who He is. He is love. He created us that He might have something that He could lavish His love on. What I read to you earlier is out of Brother Oakman's book, A Spiritual Universe. And I intentionally didn't tell you that to begin with because that would have intimidated me even worse. Because believe it or not, I have a great fear of reading in front of people. It scares me. But I didn't want that cord that John was showing to stop me. Because I believe in my Heavenly Father. I truly can do anything when He's in control. When He's leading and guiding me, it is His power. I'm just willing to go along, to be the servant, to be the hands, the mouth, the voice. He has asked me to be silent a few times. I'm not sure how to describe that. To just be there. But there's something in this at the very end that the Lord has had me focus my attention on for the last several weeks. I didn't realize it was going to be for today. But I'm going to go back and read the end of this to help remind you. Man was not to be left alone to offer his own unworthy response to the wonderful love offered. God was to come by His Spirit to dwell in the hearts of the faithful, enlightening their mind, guiding their worship, and fashioning their lives according to the divine will. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've read this. This book has gotten many an airplane mile on it, because I always take it on the airplane when I travel, and I attempt to read it or study it. And I came to the realization that, here, I'll just show you. This is what it looks like now. Sorry, showed everybody else. I had to color it. I couldn't follow it. And then there were times that I would read it and go, well, yeah, of course. Got it. What was so hard about that? Only to the next time to come to read it going, now what was that again? But the Lord brought me to those last couple of sentences as a way of explaining how I was feeling. And so I stand before you as a teacher. But the message to be brought today isn't from me. The Lord has guided me that it's important that we have this conversation as a body. Us. Because we might miss it otherwise. So what was coming within me, and I've really struggled to put words to it, but there's been this desire to hear from you, the members, to hear from you. A lot of people describe, the pandemic. I'm going to pronounce that wrong. All this stuff that's happened over the last several months, and most people will put it in a negative connotation, and I understand that. But there's been this understanding or inquisitiveness, this question within myself over this time that has bubbled out different points. Sean and James, I know, are aware when it has bubbled out. But it's this desire to look at this situation differently. And the differently is this. The Lord just very abruptly stopped everything. Man didn't do this. He did it. Don't fool yourself to think otherwise. The question is, why? Why did he do that? Why did he literally send us all home and say, stay there? Have you asked yourself that? So when I ask, he's like, I disrupted them. Who will they turn to? I'm giving them an opportunity. All distractions have been removed. It's an opportunity for us to do what? And I have words to fill in the blanks, but I don't want you to have my words. We, because it's not I, we need to hear those things. We need to hear how the Lord has moved with you inside your family units, because that's what he did. He broke us down to our family units. Some families might be one, and God, the Spirit, some two, some a whole handful. And each of those situations are different. But I am aware of some of the stories that are out here that have happened over the last 7 weeks or whatever it's been. And I long for the rest of the membership to hear some of those things where the Lord has enlightened your mind. He has guided your worship, where he's shown you to fashion your life differently out of this very unusual, never happened before to anybody's recollection, where suddenly everybody got told to go home for 7 weeks. Ponder that for a little bit. But I've got a mic, and I would ask Spencer, I almost said the wrong name, if he would bring it around. But I would love to hear from the members, and I would like the other membership to hear as well. That's why I asked for the microphone. But I know there's stories that are there. Would you please share them, is my question. Don't be bashful. All right. Oh, go ahead.
My story is that outwardly my life didn't change. The company I'm with was, our lawyers considered us essential, so we kept operating. So I went to work every day and came home every day, but in that, the Lord still found a way to get to me and say, you need to change. You need to do things differently. And for me, it was the admonition that there isn't enough time left to waste on other things. You need to be focused on growing closer to the Lord. And the changes have been small so far, but they're growing like a snowball rolling down a hill.
Praise the Lord for that. We're growing. We're changing. Not because of fill in the blank, but because who? Who's working with us? Within us? Are we recognizing the Spirit working within us? Are we thanking Him for the blessings that He is bringing? Up here, please.
When I was a little boy, my father worked the 3 to midnight shift, and so this is before television, and so my mother would read to us in the evening, and it gave me a love of books. And so over the years, I have read thousands and thousands of books, taking me on adventures all over the world. And now I had been reading recently 2 to 3 books a week, all Christian novels with a moral in them that somebody would not believe in God, and then by the end of the book they believed in God, and so they were good books. But with the closing of everything, the half-price bookstore was closed, the Barnes & Noble was closed, the library was closed. I had some books ordered from Christian book distributors. They didn't arrive. Maybe they're closed. I have no idea. I haven't heard from them. And so I still want to read, and so what do I turn to but my scriptures? And I have been reading through the New Testament and the Book of Mormon for weeks, and getting more out of them than I had in the past. And so that's a change in my life.
You should have been paying attention. Yeah. You can do that when you're brothers, right? He'll forgive me. So the question was, what was the question? How has the Spirit moved in you? How has it enlightened your mind, guided your worship, or fashioned your life differently over these past 7 weeks? Because I called you out a while ago, but you weren't here. For the Lord caused this to come about. He has given us a gift of these past 7, 8 weeks. Spencer, I've enticed him to speak. You're right, those flowers are like overwhelmingly sweet. Whew.
Sorry for you guys sitting in the front. You didn't know I was missing. Jim and I were in the back, so I didn't hear the question. The speakers aren't on back there, so thanks for repeating it. My observation over this shutdown period was fantastic. It became very clear to me that God has a plan, and we're involved in it. And Joey and I got invited to Sunday worship services that were held by other families, and we got included on those if we were willing to come and not maintain social distancing and just be part of a very small worship service. And I just have to tell you that those were some of the most beautiful, spiritual rich worship services that I've had a part of in 2020, no doubt about it. Very high quality worship. And one of the things that struck me most powerfully was that if you were less than 16 years old and participated, it was magnificent, the messages that these young people from 2 or 3 years old all the way to teenagers. And some of them are sitting in this room right now. Man, I am proud of you guys and girls. I really am. I'm proud of you. Because nobody poked you and said, you must speak. You just blossomed when God called you. You responded. And I'd like to hear some of that out of you today. I think that'd be beautiful. So I hope you're not shy. Because if you are, I know your names. I can call you out. But seriously, I don't know how to communicate to you how special that was to me to hear you speak, because you have valued input. I'll tell you another thing I noticed. I spend a lot of my days on phone calls with customers and the company I contract to, trying to build products for customers. And this factory that I represent is in Shreveport, Louisiana. And if you were following the news, you might have recognized that Louisiana was rather hard hit with the virus. If you did any studying as to why, you would have figured out that when they were told to social distance, they opened up another drink and went back to the party, and they had Mardi Gras parties, and most of them got sick. And so you can do what you want to do, but there is a consequence for that. And what I noticed out of the workplace was suddenly people that I'd been working with who would, in very private settings, would say, you know, I think God's trying to give us a message, or, you know, the Lord's got this, we'll believe in him. They're passionate about things, but they're very quiet. Not this time. Now they're stepping forward in boldness, saying things like, well, I don't know what it is, but I think God's got a plan for us. And if we'll keep talking to him about this and praying about it, he'll show us what to do, and we'll know how to build this product for these customers. That's a pretty unusual thing to hear in the workplace. And not one or two, but a half a dozen. And if you've talked to Joey, she'll tell you, because she's been working from home too, she's chuckled at me and kind of teased me a little bit a few times about, well, I was listening to you in there on the phone, and then I realized you were on the phone with your boss, and then I realized you're preaching to him. And we did. We had fantastic conversations about trust God. You're part of his plan, and he's working it. And he described it to me as, you know, I don't like not knowing what's coming next. And these are his words. Well, you know, I guess if we're going to learn how to walk with Jesus, we're going to have to figure out we can't see very far ahead of him. But if I stay right close to him, it'll be okay. I won't get lost. Those are his words. He's never set foot in this building one time. How'd he know that? Where'd that come from? And there's a lot of them. I'll give you a lot of examples from the workplace. Customers who say things that you can't even believe. So what that tells me is that this isn't just limited to this group of people in this building or here in Missouri, here in the center place. It's God's people. He created them, and they're all over the world. And all the distractions got removed. And lots of people use that time to get reconnected to their families. And lots of people stayed home and worried that tomorrow may never come. And I feel a deep sadness for that. Because from my viewpoint, tomorrow's a beautiful thing, and God's got this. And He's merciful enough to include me in it if I want to go along. So that's kind of my observations.
Here.
So I am a teacher, if you did not know, and I was really grumbly at the beginning of this school year because I'm so sick of the school trying to be the parents to all of the children that we serve. And that was a very big grumble of mine. I had said it many times out loud. And I had told God, that's not right. There is a breakdown in our society when the school is trying to parent the children. And so when all of this happened, all the kids are home with their parents. And God said very clear to me, look at what I do. And He said that to me over and over again. Look at what I do. And not like that was an answer to just my one grumble, but it really resonated with me. And then the other thing that really has come to me over and over and over again is, I think we all as people are like this, but I feel it more so in my heart as a teacher and a mom. You want to have control over things. You like to be able to kind of anticipate what's going to happen and be able to take care of it. And God has really revealed to me, we are never in control. That's not reality. That's not the world we live in. We have zero control. There are some things that we can do that are good choices, but we don't have control over it. And so then what do you do with that? And I think we kind of saw some different responses to having no control. You can be extremely fearful, but if you are, who are you serving? Or we can trust our Creator and put our full confidence in Him, and then we are serving Him. And it is extremely freeing to know that He's going to work absolutely every single thing for our good. And we can just trust in that. And it has been so liberating, and it has brought me such joy that we can trust Him so much. And we don't ever have to have control, because our control would be so limited. But if we just let Him do His thing, it's going to be amazing for us.
Over here. Eli.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm no longer a teenager, but I still think that I'm a kid at heart, so I hope that this works for you, Uncle James. I'm a college student, and so this whole situation has shaken things up a lot. We've had to switch to online school, which for me, I don't really mind. I have found that I'm successful with online school, so it didn't really bother me. But I also found that I had a lot more time now that I didn't have to travel to and from school because I live at home. And with that time, I had some things that I wanted to do with it, but I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do with it. And I've always used school as an excuse to say not read my scriptures or not devote time to God, because as a musician I need to practice and I need to study for my classes, and I always made that a priority. We had finals week like 2 weeks ago, and this was the most stressful finals week I've ever been a part of from high school or in college. The main reason being was that one class I was doing something that I've never done before, that it was very challenging for me, but I've enjoyed it very much. And then I had 2 tests that I had to pass in order to move on to the next level, and I really didn't want to, in my mind, take a step back and have to start over. And so this involved a lot of practicing, a lot of studying, and it took up even more time than I had been giving before. But I had this thought come into my mind, and it was a choice that I had to make. You can devote time to God every day and make the time no matter how busy you are, and you'll reap the benefits of it, or you can try to do it on your own and inevitably fail, and you won't get the results that you want. And so I decided, okay, fine, I'll practice and I'll give my time to school that I know that I need to do. I'll do my part to work hard and get the results that I desire to get. But then once I do my part, it's time to give it over to God and let Him do His work. And so every morning I'd wake up, I would go run, and then I would read my scriptures, and then it was straight into practicing and studying. And that was the most stressful week of my whole entire life. But through the whole entire week, I knew that as long as I made time for God, that I would pass everything that I needed to pass. And being a musician, I feel as though He speaks to me through music a lot. And so there were multiple songs that week that I found that brought me a lot of joy and helped me to make it through the week. And I'm sure that my sisters were very annoyed because I would be practicing and getting frustrated with how I thought I was doing bad and I wasn't going to get the result that I wanted. And these songs would pop into my mind, and I would just sing them over and over and over every 5 minutes. And I'm sure it was very annoying to them, but that and the fact that I would read my scriptures every morning got me through finals week, and I got every single grade that I desired to get.
All right, so everybody gets their wake-up call from God at some time, and mine happened during these weeks at home. And strangely enough, He just allowed my mental health to completely crumble, and it has sucked a lot. But it made me realize that no matter how much I try to do on my own, and no matter, I can do literally everything right, but without His help, it's nothing. It's still just as bad. And so He sent me this wake-up call to talk to Him and to trust Him, and that instead of always going to other people, that's not what's going to fix the problem. He's going to fix the problem. And so that's been my main experience.
Here with Daniel.
Something that touched me during this period of having the social distance on Sundays was the Zoom chats that came up online. I think that was part of God preparing us for times to come when we may, before the gathering, when we may not be able to gather together as a church. But during the Zoom chats, there were people from across the country and even around the world. Our brothers and sisters in Kenya were able to join in, and there was a brother in the Philippines that spoke during the Kenya one a couple of Sundays ago. But for the first time, I couldn't even tell what part of the country they were from. Sometimes it feels like you can tell what branch a person's from by how they feel about the Lord or the church, but there was none of that at these Zoom chat services. It was just like we were all worshiping together in the center place. And that was a beautiful thing to see.
Here beside you.
I just want to say God didn't cause it, but He's using it. That was mentioned in another sermon a while ago. So,
Drew?
From a historical perspective, there have been a lot of, and we all know this, a lot of epidemics throughout time. And the Spanish flu 100 years ago, bubonic plague, and H1N1 in our lifetime, HIV, and there will be more. And this coronavirus will probably never be completely eradicated. We can, I think, probably come close to it. But one thing that really struck me and has always been important to me throughout my life is the fellowship of the saints. And people want to get together. That is the believers and the saints. And I really did miss out on that a lot. And I don't have the Zoom in, so I went to what I call electronic church. So I listened to Charles Stanley, John Bradshaw, Alan Jackson, TV preachers, you see, electronic church. And they had a lot of good points to make. And that was very helpful. But there's still nothing like the fellowship of the saints. And Apostle Paul talks a lot about that. It did bring us out of our same old every Sunday, Wednesday night routine because they look at the quarantine. So it really did make you, if you wanted to have spiritual fellowship or read or seek out the gospel, you really had to seek it out. Because if you wanted to, you could just sleep in, and not do anything if you wanted to.
That is true. He gave us time to make a decision. We could opt to do many different things with that. The spirit that is moving, that moved among you over the last several weeks, months, I want to encourage you to continue to rely upon it, trusting, following, be willing to speak for him. While you may not understand it, trust him, obey, do as he prompts when he prompts, so that he can show you the love that he has for everyone around you, that he has for you. But it takes us together to do that. And if we continue to allow things to come between us where we don't talk and we don't communicate and we don't share, whatever the excuse or reason, if you want to say it that way, we're letting the adversary win. And it's by our choice that we're doing that. By listening to that clever deceiver that I can't, or oh, they won't believe me, or I'll try to read it, but I'll stutter and mess it all up. They'll never understand it. If we allow those things to prevent us from doing as the Lord's directed, folks, we're in trouble. And we're in serious trouble when we allow those things to prevent us from doing as the Lord has asked us to do. We don't want to be there. Trust him. He'll show you the way. He'll provide the means and the measure to do what needs to be done. It may come in a form that's unusual to you, or one that we haven't thought of. But he will answer us. I know there are additional stories to be shared of the way that worship has happened in your families. And I want to encourage you, I'll speak for myself, I long to hear those stories. I know they're there. And my soul just itches to hear them. Because I know it's the Lord working. And that brings hope and joy to me. But I also see the hope and joy in you. And it's a perpetual motion, if I can get the right word out. So I want to encourage you, don't let him hold you back. Don't let those little cords keep you from sharing. Please share. Please, please, please. How I want to hear it. And I know I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's others that would love to hear the story, like right here. Yeah, right there. And the little girl that ran off right behind you. To hear John and Polly's stories, because I'm sure they've got them too. We've got to share. I guess we don't have to. I'll stand corrected. I wish we would all share one with another. That we would love each other enough to dare to share, even though it may sound funny or look funny. All right? But to do it anyway. Like I said in the beginning, I may not need to say it, but for myself, I'm going to say it anyway. I love the Lord, and I know that He loves you, which is why I can't help but love each of you also. We may not always see things the same way. I'm pretty confident of that. But it does not mean I don't love you. I do. And I'm trying to learn how to do this a different way. How to not worry about somebody thinking it's funny that I took my coat off and hung it on the back of the chair, or thinking that, how come he sat down there a minute ago behind the pulpit? Well, I was hot, so I took my coat off. And my back is really hurting, so I sat down on a stool. While those things may sound silly, I offer them as a testimony to you. That's communication. That's not leaving it to be assumed. It's just saying it. Just in case somebody was wondering. Now they know. It's just that easy. And I can see the smiles floating between the faces. It's such a different perspective when you stand here compared to sitting out there. It's a joyous thing, while it may scare you to death at some given points because of nerves. It really is a beautiful thing. To see the Spirit work on each of you warms my soul. So I praise my Heavenly Father. I thank Him, I thank Him, I thank Him for the love that He has for you. And that I am honored enough to be included because I am His creation. Let's show our love to Him by singing this last song that's coming up.
This day, Father, you know we have gathered here to worship together and to hear and understand those things you have us to understand. We may have come for different reasons, that you know all of our thoughts and those things that brought us here. Whether it was true devotion or if it was just because now that you were able to get back together again as your children. And Father, we pray that you come today to worship with you. Set those things aside that have been plaguing us for a time and for the disappointments, for the love that you have shown us throughout the days and the trials you have placed us through. Seeing that you are the one who's in control of all things, Father, in our lives, relying on you more than even in the past to look forward to thy being there continually as the days continue to come and are before us. So we know there will be challenges and things to face. We know because of that guidance already that you've shown us through these times that you've trialed, that you will continue to guide us in those things. And we can also look upon our brothers and sisters who have come together for the strength and the understanding, or the support we need from day to day, even the communication. As we go forth this day, Father, we are thankful for thy blessings and thy presence and thy goodness, especially of your Son and those things he has taught through the scriptures and understanding through the spoken word, but also the Spirit that has dwelled with each and every one of us and guided us in our lives. Continue for thy strength and energies. And for that before us, we pray in your name, even Jesus. Amen.